Today's episode of the Inside EVs podcast is brought to you by E-Range EV Tyre. E-Range EV tyres are specifically engineered for electric vehicles. Using an advanced manufacturing process called liquid phase mixing, E-Range EV's EcoPoint 3 technology creates a tyre with lower rolling resistance and longer range, while offering low levels of wear and high grip. All this while staying affordable. Go to erangetires.com. That's ERANGE tires.com to find your EV's next set of tires.
Hello, and welcome to the Inside EVs podcast for December the 2nd, 2022. This is episode number 139. Thank you so much for joining us. On today's show, we'll be talking about the Tesla Semi delivery event, the Lordstown Endurance becoming fully homologated and certified for sales in the US, and BMW has a better battery coming. I'm Dominic Yoni, Inside EV's forum moderator and Inside EV's editor. Joining us today is the indomitable Tom Malogny, Inside EV's editor and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the monumental Mr. Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, which is available on all the best podcast platforms. And of course, Kyle Connor joins us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Out-of-Spec Studios, where he produces high-voltage videos for a growing number of YouTube channels. Okay, well, welcome, everybody.
Hello. Welcome to the commenters.
Yes, and welcome to the viewers, of course, that's why we're here. All right, so let's kick this thing off with some news, and then we'll get to what we've been driving this week. We'll try to keep this tight. Some of us have big construction projects going on in our garages, so we'll get as much as we can in here today. So let's start with the Tesla Semi event. So that was the last night. I'm not sure if any of you all got a chance to see it, but I'll just run over a little bit of it here. So 5 years after it was first revealed, the Tesla Semi is officially a vehicle that can be bought and driven on U.S. roads. To celebrate this milestone, the company held an event with CEO Elon Musk and Dan Priestley, the senior manager for semi-truck engineering, in which it handed over a pair of trucks to a pair of PepsiCo executives. And during the presentation, we learned a bit about some of the changes that have been made to the truck. The exterior and interior is pretty much the same as what we saw like 5 years ago, but the powertrain is significantly different. So originally, I believe it used 4 Tesla Model 3 motors. Now it's using components from the Plaid powertrain. So the Semi has 3 electric motors. We don't know the size of the battery yet, but it's on a 1,000-volt system. So what's interesting is that most of the time, only one motor, they call it the highway drive unit, will be engaged. But if a driver needs more torque, acceleration, the other 2 motors, they call them acceleration drive units, will be engaged by an automatic clutch. And you'll have all the power you need. It's kind of seamless. The driver doesn't need to do anything, no shifting. It's just, apply the pedal, and it just meets out the power that you want or you need. So the performance specs are very similar as before. 0 to 60 is under 20 seconds. That's great for a truck. And range is 500 miles, which Tesla says it has done this distance with a full load and has put out a video showing the entire drive. That's 82,000 pounds, I believe, with the weight of the truck and the weight of the load together, and it's pretty much maximum weight. So the drive is up on YouTube, and it's sped up so you can watch the whole thing in 2 minutes. So now, while all this is pretty cool, this will be the most capable electric truck on the road so far. Musk mentioned a couple other things that are probably more relevant to most of you. And that's the fact that the Cybertruck will use the same megacharger as Semi, and that Supercharger's V4, version 4, will also have this connector. And so, Tom, before we talk about the Semi, Elon said that other vehicles would also have 1,000 volts. Do you think he was talking about the Cybertruck? And what do you think are the implications of a 1,000-volt powertrain in that?
So full disclosure, I didn't watch this last night. I've been tied up here at the house, but I did hear that news. And yeah, I think he has to be talking about Cybertruck. And that's pretty cool. With the Cybertruck being delayed as it's been, I figured that it wasn't just because they were having difficulty with the cold rolled steel and this unique exoskeleton. I figured that along the line, Elon was coming up with new ideas of we have to put that in the truck too. Like when We talked about that with the crab walk when the Hummer EV came out and said, rear wheel steering, it's crab walk.
Right.
And a lot of people thought that, oh, well, Tesla's going to incorporate this in the Cybertruck now. I think that's kind of one of the reasons why that it has been delayed, is because things like this, where along while they were developing the vehicle, they said, we can actually make this work in the Cybertruck too. And that would give us an incredible advantage over the other vehicles on the road. So let's make it work. And that probably is another reason why the Cybertruck got kicked down the road as long as it did. So I think it seems like that's what pretty much everybody took out of it without them actually saying that. And I think that's noteworthy.
Yeah, I think that's kind of makes sense. Hey, Blue. That's like Dog and Kyle's video, just making a little appearance, little cameo. So I think that's, you're right on the money. I think it's taken so long to get the Cybertruck kind of built, and they're building all these designing all these other things, and there's a lot of cross pollination inside Tesla. Like the he was mentioning last night, like the Semi has like the Plaid motors, components, inverters, and entertainment console. There's a bunch of other things. So where they can use one system in one vehicle, they'll bring it over to another system if it improves it. And Kyle, 1,000-volt system is going to be some fast charging. Yeah,
no surprise. I mean, we knew it was going to have megawatt charging. They were calling them mega chargers all along. What's cool is, for the Semi, for Cybertruck, I don't think it'll charge at a megawatt. It'll just use the charging apparatus, that same connector that goes over to the Semi. Now, they showed the connector itself, and we need to compare it to the CharIN megawatt charging standard that Tesla is a part of that consortium. So we need to see, if there are differences or similarities there. I don't know offhand. Let me just look it up. CharIN MCS connector.
I didn't get a picture. I didn't notice the.
It looks different than CharIN's. So very interesting, because Tesla showed this circular type connection. No surprise, Cybertruck's going to be a higher voltage architecture. That's the way we're going. I mean, I've heard rumors internally for years about them working on this project. That's no surprise. The big surprise to me is how the powertrain on the Semi is set up. That was the most interesting bit. They didn't go into the battery pack. They showed less than 2 kilowatt hour per mile, consumption at load, which is really impressive. So that's what, if a Rivian does 2 miles per kilowatt hour, it's 4 times less efficient. Does that make sense? Something like that.
So it's only half as efficient as a Hummer EV, basically.
So it would be roughly, probably still significantly less efficient. Yes. But there's got to be a way where a Hummer EV can be more inefficient than a Semi. And we'll have to make that video, because that thing is so thirsty. Here's the thing that's interesting. They'll probably use anywhere between a 900 kilowatt hour and 1 megawatt hour battery pack on the Semi, is where I'm thinking it'll come in. They showed that 500-mile drive all the way to San Diego. Really impressive. I have to go through screen by screen grab, because he was pulling up all the engineering data on the numbers. If we can read the numbers, we can see pack voltage under load. We can see kilowatt hour remaining. We just need to pull up all of these things. They really left a lot out there, as long as we can break down that, what everything was on the screen. But the powertrain's interesting. In the Model S Plaid and all new Model 3 and Y dual motors, they use all permanent magnet motors. And one thing Tom and I talk a lot about when we do our efficiency testing is a disconnect function on permanent magnet motors, because you don't want flux related losses when driving. You'll have a 1, 2, 3 kilowatt drag coming in. What's really interesting is, as the vehicle gets heavier, as you have a bigger battery pack, the actual benefit of a disconnect decreases. But in the Semi, they put a disconnect on the acceleration drive unit, which is the identical drive unit to the Plaid, which also to me seems a bit unnecessary. Why did they need carbon wrapped motors for a Semi, unless it's the acceleration unit and they have it on a crazy aggressive gear ratio and they're spinning this thing up? They just put a biggest reduction on there to get all the power off the line, and these things will just be rocking. The equivalent, I don't know what the gear ratio is, but my guess is, the equivalent to a Model S cruising at 70 miles an hour, that rear drive unit it might be close to it doing 140 miles an hour in the semi, just with their reduction to get it off the line and get it moving. The front drive unit, no disconnect on there at all. So it's I don't know what axle that's on. They didn't say. There may not be a front motor on this thing. It might just do the rear wheels. Which
I think it's the rear axles. I think it's the first axle behind the cab that has the permanent motor engaged, and the next two are on the next axle back. Yeah,
my understanding, 100%. Which I think they're leaving a little bit on the table, and maybe they'll have a front motor in future variants. But it would really help with regen. It would really help, I think, with actually just vehicle control, having a front motor on there, and that would really start separating the driving experience from a combustion diesel truck. But drivetrain setup, 2 permanent magnet motors, uses one 90% of the time. The other one, carbon wrap, crazy engineering, just on a clutch connect disconnect, which is not anything new. And what's interesting is watching this truck climb the grades, when they were showing it doing 55 up the grades, but you can tell that thing's wide open throttle. That power bar is all the way to the right. So I wonder how thermals are going to handle everything. Really hot day, heavy load, big grades. This is where electric powertrains struggle. And we don't know how it's going to handle abuse, but I guarantee you we'll be testing it as soon as we can.
See if I
Kyle,
can bring that.
As far as the connector goes, I'm pretty sure, I wasn't able to find it online, but I'm pretty sure that it is going to be the same connector, that the CharIN's connector and Tesla's. There were different versions, so there's different pictures out there, and I don't even know if any one website has it right. But I remember watching a video, and there were Tesla representatives there, and there were CharIN representatives there, and they were talking about the megawatt charging. And they were on the same page with the connector. So I'm going to have to dig that up, but I am almost positive that it's going to be the same connector. And it would be crazy if it's not, especially since Tesla worked with CharIN on this megawatt charging system. So look, we're going to have to dig that up. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same connector.
Man, it really ought to be. I mean, that would just... we already have a problem with the connector standards in like the automotive world. The trucking world is going to need its own special supercharger route or charging mega chargers. It'd be kind of nice if they're all on the same page. So
especially because it's being released at the same time, Dom. I mean, one of the problems we had with CCS and Tesla and J1772 is early on everyone was on different time schedules. And nobody wanted to work with each other because they weren't on the same time schedule. But now these trucks and megawatt charging is really getting rolled out at the same time. So it would be nuts if we didn't work together on it. So, but I mean, a lot of things we do are nuts. But hopefully it's the same connector. Right.
Seems to be a fair amount of skepticism about the range and things in the comments. That's a flat drive. Yeah, there's traffic. I don't know. I guess we need to do a range test, right? I don't know. But I don't know even how you do that with trucks, man. That's a whole. We'd have to engineer a whole new, standard.
Well, just the fact that it could do 500 miles along this one specific route. We have the route. We know what the route is. We know that there is that one climb there, and you can pretty much look at that and then say, okay, if on this other route it's more challenging, you're going to knock 10 or 15% off of range off, depending on the weight it's carrying. So, we have one measurement there. There's no one set range that this truck is. It'll go 550 miles on a different route or 410 miles on a different route. It's a different temperature. So, but the fact that it can do 500 miles with a full load on any given route, that's on real roads, not on a track, tells us that, it's got to be 1,000 kilowatt hour battery pack, because they said the efficiency is around 2 kilowatt hour per mile. And the funny thing is, I did watch snippets of it. I didn't watch the whole thing, and I caught that one snippet when Elon was saying 2 kilowatt hour per mile, and his tongue stumbled a little bit over saying it, because you're not used to saying it that way. You're used to saying miles per kilowatt hour. That's what your brain is wired to say. And then when you start saying you have to reverse those two words, it trips you up a little bit. And I had to play it twice because I'm like, did he say that right? But he did.
Right. And Ryan Huber points out in their video that you can see them doing 55 miles an hour most of the drive. And good morning, Ryan. Good to see you out there.
But this is a really
top
important point, because here's the thing: 55 trucks don't drive 55.
No.
Here in Colorado, they're doing 70.
75.
And some of them are doing 75.
Yeah,
And
they go
some of them
faster.
are doing 90. You know, the owner operator with the old
Right.
Peterbilts with the limiters removed, they're just hammer down the whole way. And it's freaking cool. And they're just wide open everywhere. We don't know how this is going to handle that. Of course, the weight isn't the big deal unless you're doing steep grades. The physics wouldn't change from our testing with electric trucks and towing and everything. It's about the aero when you go fast. And it is pretty aero looking. But I think it's a 300-mile semi. You just bank on 300 for your routes.
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be many trucking companies going 100% to 2%, stretching each leg over and over and over. Especially with varied weather conditions and elevation. And like today, for example, we have 45-mile-an-hour gusts of wind here in the front range. And, you know, it's a side wind. That's really going to impact you. So I don't think many companies are going to they'll spec the big battery, but they're not going to run them on super long routes, at least initially.
Not without a charging stop, yeah.
And if there are megawatt chargers on the way, you're not talking about a very long stay, you know, to get enough miles to finish that 500 or what. I mean, if you're going 1,000 cross country, it's a different story. But if you, let's say what Kyle said, it's a 320 mile, you know, EV. After driving how many hours? I mean, a lot of companies require the drivers to take breaks, certain amount of breaks, and they're only allowed to drive a certain amount of consistent hours. So as long as we can get infrastructure out there, you know, I think this type of range would probably work. You know, would it be absolutely perfect? Nothing is ever going to be as easily refuelable as liquid fuel. I mean, let's face it, it's amazing how quickly you can refill you know, liquid fuel, but it doesn't have to be like we can change the refueling model, and it still be perfectly, you know, workable.
But even with a diesel fuel, like if you got two big tanks on your truck and stuff, you're sitting in the truck stop for a while. It takes a while, and sometimes the diesel pumps are slow. You know, it's not that bad. Like the speed of the mega chargers, I think, actually.
Hey, Martin, question for you. What was the take on the European audience? Obviously, you're tapped into their community. You've been up for hours before us. What are people talking about? Are they excited that this might make its way over? Do they think it's silly? What's the pulse?
Honestly, the thing that I saw more people commenting on was the fact that they confirmed Cybertruck would be the same platform and voltage, so 1,000 volts, which is interesting for Cybertruck because they're going to sell a whole lot more of those than semi-trucks. Of course, we've already got electric trucks on the road here. Volvo make great electric trucks, and a Daimler Freightliner make great electric trucks. And so it's just really interesting that Tesla are entering a market that they're not first at, but they can be better at, which is almost the Apple way of doing it, if you like. And notice that Elon Musk and Tim Apple had a big love-in this week after Elon threatening to go to war.
Right, that was crazy. They're like, oh, Tim, they're ruining it. They're taking us out the App Store. And then it's just like, oh, thanks for the tour. Your campus was beautiful.
Like, brilliant. I love it. So, so it's a very Apple...
Though, he made Elon come to him, though. That's like a power move there.
Well, yes.
Anyway.
But I thought that's interesting that, you know, they were first with Model S in that market, first with X, first with 3, first really mainstream Y SUV crossover shape as well in those markets. They're not first with electric trucks. Oh, Nikola, I should mention as well, have those. So all of those are not only on the road right now, but the pilot projects have been going on for years. So it's really interesting, actually. I saw a lot of reaction as well from I tried to follow a breadth of people on my social media, from people who want to see Tesla go bust through to people who've got their life savings in it, right? And then hopefully on all of that range of opinions, I can form my own, and it normally ends up halfway between. It veers a little bit off the median sometimes. But I think what's really interesting is how many people are saying this is huge, it's a massive event. It was a big event, but it wasn't packed full of the usual people that they tried to get to those events. Our friend Ryan from the Kilowatts, well, he was turned away at the door. He said he got to the door, showed his name, they cross-checked his name and went, no, you're uninvited, turn around, go home. Wow, and it's like they turn, and like, so
Easy.
first,
even
not great Tesla, not great Tesla. They could have called you the day before. But Tesla
even
don't tend to, play by other people's
Well,
rules.
they did that to others the day before too.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
The big
So-
one of his biggest sycophants, is like
Yeah, I saw that as
said,
well.
Don't bother coming. He's
So,
like,
but
wow.
like Ryan got to the door and had a VIP invite, and they're like, no, you're uninvited now. Go away. So they didn't want the usual people. So this, and there were some bloggers and things there, but this is very much it's about industry. I think what's really interesting about this is a lot of the people I saw excited about this vehicle were saying it's good. This is huge. It's the first big launch in ages, and of course they were excited. I don't think this changes anything today than we didn't know yesterday. Apart from the 3 motors, not 4, and the charging speed, they really delivered on a promise that was made 5 years ago. So well done, but also, well done for, it took 5 years to get there. But they delivered. That's the important thing. Yeah. But none of us operate fleets. I don't know, Kyle gets pretty close to operating a fleet of vehicles at times, but none of us operate a fleet of vehicles. And I think from what I've tried to understand over the last few hours of trying to follow different people is really these kind of big programs are not like the way that we talk about cars on this channel and buying things. So charging, reliability, maintenance are going to be really, really important to fleet buyers. Now, what's the one thing Tesla? No, they're still, as they become so popular, maintenance is still an issue. They can't expand as fast as people want their cars. That doesn't wash with fleet buyers. So a truck not working is a massive priority. Tesla can support them, but they'll want their own trained engineers, and that takes time. Reliability is an unknown. We can all sit around here and say, yeah, but EVs are more reliable. We have personal experience of that. But that's an unknown to a fleet buyer. So charging is the big one. I suspect, well, we know you can't just go and buy a semi-truck. So unfortunately, for anyone that is an owner-operator, I suspect they'll sell these things in big fleets for the first few years. As part of that fleet order, you'll be buying the chargers as well. And as part of that, you'll probably get some mega pack storage for your depot so that if there's a power cut or you need to dump a ton of power in quickly, then you can do that from battery storage and then trickle charge it again when your electricity rate is cheaper to avoid those peak power charges. All these things need to be thought about. There's a huge amount of batteries required for these vehicles, like maybe 15 cars worth of batteries in one truck. Now, Tesla make, $15,000 or $20,000 margin on each vehicle they sell. It's far more profitable to sell cars than trucks for Tesla. And all of these projects go through pilot projects first for years, actually, with big fleet buyers. Now, the addressable market for a truck is obviously tiny compared to selling cars. And I think the really great thing about this truck is how comfortable the thing looks. You can stand up in it. I read something a while ago. I'm going to misquote it now because I can't remember, but it was about how we rely on trucks in, I think it was either the US or Europe. It might have been both, actually. And it's basically 100%. So yeah, some things get shipped around the world from China and things travel by air and rail. But in the grand scheme, it's all trucks. And so this makes the life of truck drivers better. It looks like a better vehicle. Interestingly, I've not watched it myself, but I saw somebody say, I've zoomed in on the left-hand screen on that video they posted, and the autopilot full self-driving graphic is a holding image. So as you're overtaking vehicles, it's nothing kind of animated. I've not checked that myself. That would suggest that at this stage they haven't got, if that were true, they haven't got full self-driving or autopilot.
Well, they don't, because you can watch the guy drive the whole time.
Right, so he's not hands-off.
Control, because you can see him click up the stalk to cancel cruise when things were going on. There was one where there was like a traffic backup ahead and the dude's like off and hard on the brakes, and then they went to the next clip.
Yeah, okay. So the most exciting thing that I'm most excited about, which is reducing fatigue, these vehicles reacting quicker than a human to prevent accidents. I think those are the things I'm most excited about, and those are the big unknowns at the moment. It could make a real difference for that career. And look, if Tesla have a great brand image, it might make more people want to get into trucking, which is a job, goodness me, I couldn't do it. Thank you to everyone who does and brings us all the stuff we need to our supermarkets, because it's an industry in decline. So hopefully if this makes trucking a bit sexier, or people saying, look, I want to drive one of those Tesla trucks, or maybe it helps recruiting for these big companies. Yes, some really, really interesting things out of yesterday. But the big thing is probably the fact that Cybertruck will charge quicker than anything else.
Well,
we
don't know what.
Well,
I mean,
battery size.
Yeah, the Cybertruck will have the capability to charge as fast as it needs to max out the batteries. But there's the big question here. How are they going to implement it with their legacy chargers? Version 2, version 3 superchargers don't go up to 1,000 volts. So will those either be upgraded? Maybe there's a version 3 upgrade to higher voltage.
Oh,
If they start linking it. I would think they would feature.
They showed a version
3.
4 on the chart on a slide.
Yeah, I texted you, Martin, the images of that. I don't know if there's a way to pull it up because it is
I can do that.
than the CharIN connector, Tom, that they showed.
Oh, yeah.
I sent both to you just so we can look at the difference.
Excellent. I'll bring those up.
But it could just be the internals rather than the actual connector. So we need to break it down a little bit. We need to look. It's possible they just showed like what's in the cable. But you're going to need onboard booster on Cybertruck to work on older hardware. So they're either going to do the Hummer EV thing, the Ultium thing, which is split the pack and, do it that way and go from series to parallel, or I should say parallel to series, or you're going to go with an onboard booster, the Taycan approach. The EV6 approach and Ioniq 5 approach is actually to use the rear motor's inverter to step up the voltage. So there's many different ways of integrating it. We don't know what Tesla's approach will be.
So so that means the because if you think about the plug the Cybertruck would use, which is going to be a very popular vehicle, it has to work with their existing infrastructure, which for you guys is a different plug to what we have.
2 different ports. Unless they have 2 different charging ports on it.
Like in China? China have 2 ports?
Right. China has 2 ports.
Oh, okay.
But it's about to get even more confusing because this North American charging standard that Tesla is proposing isn't what the Cybertruck is going to use, according to them.
Isn't it? Oh no! So it's let me show this up. So this is what you sent me.
So that's the CharIN connector.
Oh, that's totally different to what we've because Tesla's is longer, isn't it? More.
Pull up the other screenshot that I showed. So this is their megawatt charging thing. It's a big connector.
Right. Oh yeah, no, I didn't. Let me just forward that one onto myself as well. That was
your head.
But didn't they?
Almost.
So all right, okay. So that is the cross section of the cable, though. Isn't that what you sent though that we were talking about earlier?
Well, that's what it might be, but we don't actually.
I have a cross section of the cable.
It looks like the cross section of the cable more than the actual connector.
Right, because that connector is not like the one that they've been using until now on the test vehicles. But that it started off tying 4 superchargers together, and then it became a different connector, didn't it? So, let me bring that up and pop that.
And
into
I'm
the
looking
window.
at it again too. I think it is just the cross section of the cable.
So they've cut the cable and offered a cross section.
But that means they're not open about what charging. Yeah, they're not saying what connector.
It's just saying it's version 4, and it's got a lot more ampacity. They call it, so it can handle a lot more amps than the version 3, like more than double the amperage.
I wish they would just tell us what connector they're using.
Just tell us.
Got to find out.
Okay, well, we've been half an hour into this, so we should probably move on, though. I don't know if there's any other point you want to make about this.
Oh, it's the most important news of the year. This is
exciting.
Well, I mean, it's pretty exciting, and they have a facility set up beside the Gigafactory in where is it? Sparks, Nevada. They have another facility just around the corner. It's right handy there. I don't know what else do you want to talk about it.
No, let's.
I mean, there's people are talking about the weight, like 80,000 pounds fully loaded. I think that's pretty close to like a normal truck, except I think with the electric truck, they're allowing them 2,000 pounds more.
Yes, you get extra weight as an electric truck.
Right. So
2,000 pounds. Yeah,
and that should make up for pretty much, shouldn't it? I'm not sure. I haven't done the math on the battery
I think
weight.
by the time you take I think it's very comparable carrying capacity by the time you take out the diesel engine, which can weigh thousands of pounds, and put in thousands of pounds of batteries plus that extra overhead. You're pretty much there.
Right.
I'd love to see a cost analysis breakdown, like a 5-year running cost between fuel and maintenance on typical diesel versus the Cybertruck. I think that'd be really interesting to see what's the estimate on how much savings per year you'd have running one of these.
Wonder how they're cooling the battery.
the fuel savings should be huge. I mean, I think a modern 18-wheeler gets like 6-7 miles a gallon, I think.
They're getting
Which
up,
is
8, 9 now. Some of the newest
Which-
stuff.
right.
And if
Which
this
is
gets
great.
2 kilowatt hour per mile, you're talking about, depending on where you are, the national average is like 14 cents. You're talking 30 cents a mile, fuel wise, and you could probably do those numbers with diesel. And
Right.
that's,
Diesel's
per
not
mile.
cheap now. Okay, so while we're talking about Tesla, we should also mention that according to Reuters, so just kind of moving on a little bit here, Tesla will launch a refreshed version of the Model 3 beginning in China in the third quarter of the next year. So this report, and we don't know, we don't have confirmation if it's true or not for sure, but the report says the Model 3 will get a new fascia, the front design, a new rear design, new interior, updated powertrain, and will likely use large castings like the Texas-built Model Ys. Tesla hasn't said anything publicly about a refresh, but it's supposedly known as Project Highland. So I guess we'll keep an eye out for that in case anything shows up to back up that report. Also on the Tesla front, apparently the Model Y and Model 3 are getting a discount for the month of December in the amount of $3,700 and $3,750. So this is the same amount, I think, as the IRA incentive it will be eligible for in 2023. So I think they're just offering this as a way to tap into the customers who are just like waiting until January for that federal incentive to kick in so they can save the money, like I am for my own personal thing, waiting for January to kick in.
Absolutely.
So yeah, because $3,700 is a good bit of change for some of us. And yeah, and I don't know if anyone want to talk anything about that.
Not the first time they've done stuff like this around the tax credit over the years. And in fact, in Germany, where the incentives are reducing at the end of this year, Tesla have even said, if you've ordered a vehicle already, but we can't get it to you this year, we'll honor it. So they're putting their hand in their pocket. So they do the right thing sometimes, and that is the right thing to do. Of course, they want to sell vehicles, so they would do it, wouldn't they? Because some people are saying there's no demand, which is why they're lowering prices. But whenever I hear that, then they'll come out with their quarterly numbers, and they always like a new record breaker. So I try and ignore those voices as much as I possibly can.
Right. Sorry, I got a text. I applied to get into the Florida Folk Festival, and we got.
Are you in?
No.
Oh!
I got a rejection email.
If anyone watching this can pull strings with the Florida Folk Festival,
Yes.
can you call your local representative and lobby on Dom's behalf, please?
This is
Politely.
not my first rejection email.
Dom, you just pull the YouTuber card. Be like, hey, I do this podcast, and
it's like 20,000 viewers and listeners a week. Come on.
All right. So let's talk about the Lordstown Endurance pickup truck real quick, because we talk a lot about the Ford Lightning and Rivian R1T, but there's another pickup truck that's working its way to the market, and that is the Lordstown Endurance. This week, it finally received its U.S. homologation, as well as its CARB, EPA, and FMVSS safety certifications, and so it can be sold in the U.S. Originally, it was supposed to go on sale in 2020, but the company ran into a whole kind of drama and problems when the short seller Hindenburg released a damage report in March of 2021. The company put together a special committee actually to investigate the claims in that report. And though they found most of them, they say, to be false and misleading, the CEO and CFO both resigned in December of 21. So things are looking pretty bad. But then Foxconn bought the plant, the Lordstown plant, and they entered into agreement in a strategic partnership with Lordstown Motors. So fast forward to now, and it's building trucks, albeit at a very slow rate due to a shortage of capital and parts. So it's still struggling, I think, somewhat, but at least they have the Foxconn name behind them a little bit. But it estimates they can deliver 50 trucks this year and 450 in the first half of 2023. Kyle, I don't suppose you have plans to drive this thing yet, do you?
Nope, no plans yet, but certainly will be doing so. To me, this was always the least interesting electric pickup truck, in full transparency, because it's so damn ugly. So damn ugly.
It is ugly.
Like, I understand it's for fleet use and it's got the hub motor thing. So there's a lot of interesting things going on here. But I think it's important to really clear the air here a little bit, maybe make it worse. why was this such a weird company to launch? They had the president at their like launch thing. It
Right.
just seemed like everything was a bit weird and off, and nothing was traditional. And they were definitely like using like Chevy parts to make this thing, and it's an old GM factory, is my understanding. So like it definitely felt weird. There's no way around that. But now that it's on the market, how many they're going to build, who they're delivering to, we don't know all the specific details yet, but it will be interesting. It's the one we know the least about. They've been the least transparent about everything with their customer base, or I would say us, whatever
public,
we are sharing their story. We don't know all the specs, right?
Right. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
so what's going on here? What are they hiding? We want an open book. Here's all the specs. Here's everything our truck's capable of. And then be like, go test it. We have no communication with the company at all. Hasn't been on my radar until now, but a little weird.
Well, since there's struggles in 21, like I guess last year, I mean, it kind of fell off the radar a lot. So I haven't, if you don't really hear about them, there's so much other stuff going on. It's like you don't really think that, I should dig into what's going on with the endurance, it kind of like just came up. Oh, great.
Yeah, but big congrats to them. That's a hard thing to get a car on sale from scratch. Right. And so they did it. That's always the big one that everyone waits for. And that's no small feat. So maybe we'll see things turn around. Maybe they were just waiting to get to this point, and then it's going to be an open book. They're going to share where they got all their tech from. They're going to share, their design ethos, what the truck is intended to be used for, and we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think the Foxconn deal really saved them. I mean, that's pretty evident. They were really scuffling along for a long time. And I think it hasn't gotten a lot of attention, like Kyle pointed out, partially because this is designed as a work truck. This really, they were never, marketing it as, come buy our truck like, Rivian did, say, for instance. So that's number one. And number two, the company really hasn't engaged with any journalists. As far as I know, I've reached out to them in the past and said, hey, we'd love to learn more about what's going on there, maybe get an opportunity to get up close to one of these and touch it and feel it, even if we can't drive it. And I didn't even get a response. So I think that is part of the reason why you haven't heard more about it. Beside the fact that, we had all these startup EV companies over the last 4 or 5 years, and so many of them never brought it to the finish line. I think a lot of people were under the impression, myself included, that they were never going to make a truck.
I'm surprised.
I was wrong. They've made a few of them now. And I'm rooting for them to continue on and make more. A couple of hundred in the next 8 months isn't necessarily too exciting. It's a start, but you can't get to profitability making a couple of hundred trucks in the first 8 months of production. Hopefully that's really their continuing validation, and then second half of next year, you start seeing, hundreds per week being produced and being sold to businesses. I mean, if the truck works well, there's room for this. I mean, the Lightning is the only vehicle truck right now that's really a work truck that's out there, and nobody can get one. Right. If you want one and you're a business owner, you can't buy one. If they were able to start producing these vehicles in volume, the second half of next year for fleet use, then sell every one they can make. So hopefully that's the case. And, I'm rooting for them. I just wish they would engage us a little bit. I wish they would answer emails or say, hey, take a look at what we're doing. We got a great truck here. We're just starting to roll it off. Why don't you come, kick it or drive it around the parking lot, or, even take a look at our facility. But they haven't really, it's all been kind of, cloak and dagger. And that makes all of us have hesitation on believing whether they're real or not.
Right. I mean, I've had a fascination with Hub Motors for like the last dozen years, and like to see the company actually who I've started following ended up just through different convolutions of the company is now actually the supplier to Lordstown Endurance. So that's really what I want to see. Like, I want to learn more about the powertrain, how tough it is, what it can do, what it cannot do. So yeah, we really need to get this into the hands of some independent people. people independent of the company. But let's move on real quick. BMW has a new platform coming called, appropriately, New Class. It's spelled the German way, so it looks a little different from what we'd think New Class would look like. But this new platform will sit under a number of different models. And now we're learning a bit about the batteries that will be used in these vehicles. They're referred to as Gen 6 batteries at BMW. And according to the automaker, the energy density of the cylindrical cells, they used pouch cells in the past, they're going to cylindrical, will use like half the cobalt of today's cells and 20% less graphite. And the energy density then is much improved, and the pack will use a cell-to-chassis design. So they expect the battery pack cost to be cut in half, which is like very significant. BMW also says charging from 10 to 80% will be 30% quicker. And these New Class cars will be in production in Greer, South Carolina in 2025. So that's not too far away. Tom, have you heard anything about the New Class cars from your connections at BMW?
No, not really. And I actually asked about it a couple of months ago, and none of my contacts were willing to really discuss it yet. So I don't really know a whole lot what's going on with this. And to be honest with you, I didn't even read this article. You didn't include it on the set list for today, so I'm blaming you.
Oh, that's true, right? Because that was the last decision.
And
you looked at this.
As you know, this whole week I've been I've had a whole crew of electricians at my house since Monday, and they're here right now. So I've been out of the loop a little bit.
Sure.
This isn't the first time we've heard about this. They've been talking about switching to the cylindrical cells and, the improvements that they're making. I think this is going to be commonplace. I think every couple of months we're going to hear about how this automaker has improved their cells, and right. we're used to hearing that from Tesla. The early years, how we have an improvement on the cells, we have new form factor, but then the traditional OEMs were just kind of like, yeah, we're sourcing cells from Samsung or we're sourcing cells from LG Chem. But now it seems like they understand just how important it is to have the absolute best cells you can and the best form factor. So the OEMs are getting more involved in making sure that they improve their cells, and even if it means using a different form factor and a different battery chemistry. So I think we're going to just constantly hear reports on this from every OEM moving forward, because for the longest time, BMW and I've interviewed everyone at BMW. They said, "Oh, the large format cells are better. We're not going to use these little cylindrical cells. Those are for laptops. Tesla can use them because they can get them for cheap, and they're just, but they're not the best form factor. We're not going to go to that." And now you see they're saying that, "Oh yeah, well, these are the next greatest best thing." So I think early on the OEMs didn't want to admit that they had to get so involved in battery tech, and but they realize now that's going to be competitive advantage, and they're going to have to get really involved in it, and it's good to see that.
Right. So you weren't around too much this week, but you were around long enough to write up this thing about the CharIN Association. Speaking about Tesla charger connectors and things. So the CharIN Association responded to the Tesla North American charging standard connector thing. And they say thanks, but no thanks. I don't know. Do you want to summarize that up real quick?
Sure. Yeah. So, CharIN announced, they called it their response to Tesla's North American charging standard proposal. And, basically, they, respectfully said, well, Tesla is one of our core members, and Tesla is a core member of CharIN. So they're not a founding member. They joined like a year or so after CharIN started. There was only 4 or 5 automakers that were founding members. But Tesla joined on pretty early on. And, CharIN listed the reasons why they think that, CCS is going to remain the standard and that we're not going to transition. They talked about things like compliance, the fact that governing standardized bodies like ISO, IEC, SEA,
right.
they would have to, review the whole NACS standard and approve it before any automaker would even begin to use it. They talked about the fact that there's 50% more CCS connectors worldwide right now than there are supercharger connectors. Now, most of those are in Europe. In the US, though, actually, the way they listed it is that there's actually 400 more CCS connectors than there are supercharger connectors in the wild. I haven't been able to really prove that. The question is how many of those CCS connectors work. But,
Right.
but they do claim that there are more in North America. And they listed the reasons why, that there's so much time and effort been invested, and the automakers are, all on board with CCS now, that, this is just almost a distraction for Tesla to even consider it, and the article got a lot of comments. I think we got 250 comments or so on it.
Really?
This is a hot button topic. Everybody wants to weigh in on it. And I think it seems like the way that I wrote the article, I think most people had the impression that I was pro CharIN and saying, that we shouldn't switch, but I was just repeating what CharIN wrote. And at the end of the article, I did say, even though it might be difficult at this point to change, it still might be the best thing to do, because the Tesla connector is much more elegant design. It's much easier to use. It's less likely to break. It doesn't have a tab on the top. The European adoption of CCS is much better than what we have here in North America, because it removes the rocker pins that latch the connector to the car, both for 240 volt charging and DC fast charging, and those pins break all the time. So it's just the design we have here in North America is definitely poorer. So and I even see Kyle and I go to CCS chargers all the time. Kyle, how about when you see like an older person getting out of like, an Audi or a Mercedes? I saw this woman, she probably was pushing 70, and she had a brand new Mercedes, the SUV. And she was trying to deal with this clunky cable and the CCS connector and try to angle it and put it in. And I ran over and latched it in for her. And I can't help but like visualize her grabbing the Tesla connector and just going,
right,
and putting it in. So, yes, it would disrupt the industry if we were to switch at this point, and it wouldn't make all of our problems go away. I think everybody thinks that if we switch to the Tesla connector, all the charging stations are just going to work. They're not going to break. There's not going to be communication problems. That's a whole nother thing to deal with. But the form factor is undeniably better. You can't argue that J1772 and CCS is a better form factor. But then you get into the back end with the communications and everything. If we switch to NACS tomorrow, you're not going to just roll up to Electrify America and EVgo stations and they all just work every time you plug them in. The whole back end, the communication is still going to be all messed up, believe me.
Well, in fact, it's going to be largely the same, because NACS is designed to work on CCS communication. So in theory, the idea is a lot of these stations that have two cables, my thought, you already got one CCS cable there. Let's just put the Tesla one right there. Yeah. I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I'm pro NACS, and now's the time to do it. And every day we wait, we're just pushing it back and back and back. And Tom, you're 100% right. It doesn't help with uptime, reliability, station activation, or anything like that. All it does is it makes cars easier to plug into, and it has less current limitations than CCS. Yeah. And to me, it's just like the first major automaker that implements this in their car, we're done. Then it's just a matter of time.
I don't think anyone would just drop CCS and put in the NACS at this point, Kyle. I don't think anyone would do that, but they could add a second port.
Or adapters.
Or like a
VinFast. That could be like the plug-in hybrid version of connectors, like the training wheels, where you offer both. I know it's going to add cost to the car. I mean, figure at least $1,000 more on cost wise that you would pay, not what it would cost them. So, you look at an automaker that could do it, and that would be, Dodge and Chrysler more than any of the other OEMs, because they don't have any, CCS capable vehicles on the market yet. That would be the play if they want to. They're obviously trailing here in North America, Dodge and Chrysler. If they wanted to try to, checkmate Ford and GM for getting the jump on them for, electrification, add one of these connectors, and that would put huge pressure on Ford and GM. But as it is now, I can't see any of the established companies just switching over. I just can't. And I'm not saying I don't want them to. I don't see it happening.
What about a newer one like Lucid?
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. You know, but you have to understand that nobody would just switch over without having the already having the okay to use Tesla superchargers. Because if you switched over,
you need to be able to use.
You wouldn't be able to plug in anywhere. Tesla didn't say, here's the NACS, and whoever uses it can use our supercharger network.
I think they did.
I don't think so.
In the initial blog post, it says you're more than welcome to use our NACS connector, and you will have access to superchargers.
I didn't read that, and if that's the case, that makes it a lot more palatable. Kyle, I wasn't aware of that, and I wonder if, yes, you can use it, but like it comes with strings, because the whole, all our patents are yours things came with a lot of strings early on. And it could be, sure, no problem. You could use our system, but we're going to get $500 per car that you produce from the automaker. Who knows? But I think that it would be, it's going to be interesting. I think somebody is going to do it. I don't know when, but I don't think it's going to be just dropping it and adding it. I could see somebody saying, we're going to give you both options and see how this works.
So, yeah.
I don't want to play dad, but I know that Tom has contractors and could be taken off at any minute.
Right. No,
and I really want to hear about his 400 amp service. So I just want to remind you.
So just before we jump into what Tom's been upgrading this week, I just want to mention that VinFast has exported its first bunch of cars to the U.S. 999. Apparently that's an auspicious number in a good way. And they had a big ceremony, as VinFast likes to do. And there's a video. There's a nice video from, I think, produced by Reuters on the Inside EV's website. On that article, it's great to just watch and just kind of see. Madame Lay has a few words to say, and they show the cars. So that's kind of neat. That's on its way and actually happening in such a short time scale. I'm not sure. I haven't seen any of these cars like recently. How they've developed since I drove them in Vietnam in March.
You said they kind of drove like crap, right?
They did in March. Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. That's all we know about it. Drives like crap
in March. But then they had
so many words, though.
They've been working hard, I think, at improving that. And the guy running the program, had worked on the Ultium program, for instance. And so, he knows what's expected, what North American consumers expect out of their vehicles, at least powertrain wise.
I hope it's good, because they're really putting everything into our market.
Yeah. Right. I mean, they're going to build a whole factory here too. So I have a feeling that it could really stumble badly out of the gate, but I mean, they're just going to push forward until they get it right, basically. You never, I don't think this is going to be like an overnight success necessarily. There could be some like big issues, but I do think that they're very dedicated and ambitious, and they will make this work.
Well, they're very dedicated to swaying media.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
They spend a lot of money.
They
have a lot of money.
Private jet, $7,000 bottles of whiskey. Hey, why don't you drive my car and say it's nice?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it seems sketchy to me.
8,
but we'll see. $8,000 bottles of whiskey. Oh my god.
I suppose by local, we got a new liquor store opened up here, and I just saw a bottle of that McAllen's. They have a bottle of that, and it's like $8,000. It's like, whoa. Anyway,
that's what you get when you go and review a VinFast, by the way.
Man, I mean, I don't know if I ever got that. I don't know. The first wave, it's just some of us got that. I don't know whatever.
That's crazy. That's
I know it is crazy. It was such a surreal
so
experience.
Unethical. I have such an issue working with so many of these Asian car companies reviewing their cars that we just try and borrow them from viewers now.
Right. I mean, they do want to influence your opinion, but with gifts and whatever they can.
Whatever they can do, they want to influence your opinion. It's crazy.
Yeah, sure.
It's not just the car companies. Kyle, you probably get people offering to send you all kind of stuff. Bicycles, scooters, all the electric stuff. I do all the time. And it's crazy how some of these Asian companies, like how they will give you all this stuff, but you say good things. You know what I mean? It's like no, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
You know?
Yeah.
And they're same way with the car companies. And I think it's just the fact that this is a new game to them, and they're not used to. They haven't learned the rules. You know, I mean, there's you know, and Kyle, we've talked. We don't have time to talk about this now, but we've talked in the past about press drives and media drives, and you know how they, you know, treat you really well and take you places and everything. But they do not cross and never cross the line of trying to influence what you say. And you still do get invited. At least I do. You get invited. Even if you trash the car, you get invited to the next one, as long as you give reasons for it, like legitimate reasons. The driving dynamics suck, you know, this and that. You know, hey, they take the good with the bad, but they do try to do the best they can to make you like them and their brand when you're on these press drives. But you have to be independent and say, that's all great stuff, you know, the caviar, the this, the that, but when I get in the car and drive it, I'm going to report on exactly what I feel, whether they gave me McDonald's or, you know, 5-star restaurant. So, but the Asian companies take that to the next level. Some of them that I've dealt with at least already, you know, where I've had, you know, a car company when I was mic'd up say like, okay, now you say this is better than Tesla. No, I don't.
Amazing.
Anyway,
okay, but we can talk about this another time. We should probably maybe have the communications guy for VinFast come on sometime to talk about it a little bit. He's very open.
We should have an engineer talk about it.
Oh, actually, well, their engineer might. I mean, that might be possible. He's pretty interesting and obviously a very knowledgeable guy.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Yeah.
We want the nerds. We don't want the comms people.
I mean, the comms guy is a pretty cool guy, though. He had a very good his position. You know, he was like an intermediary between a Western press and an Eastern company, and bridging that gap.
He's a great guy. He's wonderful at his job. We want the engineers.
I hear you. Okay, Tom, your house is undergoing a huge upgrade there, and so besides this, I don't know if we have time to talk about this as well, but you also have a video this week about your garage makeover. I think we talked about it a little bit last week that people should go to Inside EVs and check out, or it's on your State of Charge channel as well, right?
Yeah. So the channel State of Charge on YouTube. And so there's two different projects. The garage makeover was complete like a month and a half, 2 months ago. But, you know, as I've stated, I partnered with a company called Garage Living that do like real upscale garage makeovers. And now is my part of the obligation to promote what they did. So now you're seeing a flurry of tweets, Instagrams from me saying, you know, my partner, Garage Living. And, you know, I think the people that know me know that, you know, I think most people know that I wouldn't say something if I didn't believe it. You know, you could give me whatever you want. I can't be bought. Luckily, I've done well in life for myself. And you know, that whatever somebody's going to give me isn't worth my integrity. At this point in life. So, you know, this is the company I partnered with. Fantastic job. But now it's my turn to say, hey, you know, hashtag partner, hashtag collaboration. This is the Garage Living. So this is, I'm posting all these time-lapse videos and then before and after pictures. That's the garage getting done as they're putting up the cabinets and everything. And I am so happy with it. You know, I can honestly say these guys did a fantastic job on my garage. Ask Kyle's dad. He came over and, you know, out of spec Dave, and he walked in and all I heard was like, holy shit. He's looking around. He goes, Jesus, I got to show this. Does Kyle know you did this? I'm like, yeah. So, yeah, no, it came out really good. So that was step one. Now, step two, I'm upgrading my home's electric service. I had 150 amp service. I was way over with load calculations. But I'm smart enough to know, I knew I wouldn't run 3 chargers at once and this and that. I understood how my house worked, but this was long overdue. Now that I was adding Charge Station Pro, I wanted to be able to charge at the full 80 amps that it can deliver to my Lightning. So now I needed a 100 amp dedicated circuit going to the grid. And that's my original panel when we just started pulling it apart all the way to the left. On the right, you'll see that's my solar system. So this is when we first started pulling the panel and all the circuits off. That's a 150 amp circuit there. And so we pulled that off. I had to upgrade to a 400 amp service. Well, I didn't have to. I could have got away with a little bit more. Now that's where we are as of this morning. You'll see on the left, there's two 200 amp panels. In the middle is a Generac 200 amp panel for a generator. I have a natural gas generator at my house. So I actually don't need Ford's intelligent backup power system. Right. But I'm doing it anyway because I want to show how it works and I want to, make some videos on it. So my house is mostly already all backed up on a natural gas generator. All the way to the right is my solar inverter. The big Sunrun panel next to it is the new inverter that I have for the intelligent backup power system. Right. And then the two panels next to the big Sunrun panel, that's the transfer switch on the bottom, and on the top with the cover on it is the Dark Star battery is what it's called, Dark Start battery, because intelligent backup power needs a battery. When the power goes out, in between the time the truck's powering your house, you need some sort of a power for the system to communicate to each other. And that's what that battery does. It's just a little battery. And then to the left of that, you'll see that's a new sub panel. All of those circuits are what intelligent backup power is going to power in my house. So I'm going to have two different systems. I'm going to have my natural gas generator that's powering most of my house, but then that sub panel is what intelligent backup power is going to power, like my garage lights, my basement lights, things that weren't on my whole home generator panel. So it's a complicated system what I had here. Upgrading to 400 amps, number one, then integrating my solar with the Sunrun system, and then integrating the natural gas generator. So this, they had to send out an engineer to do this before the electricians came. Q-Merit is doing the install. They're my channel sponsor. They've been here all week. Sunrun is Ford's partnered with Intelligent Backup Power. And they're the company that Ford will promote and say, listen, use Sunrun because they know the system inside and out. However, Ford's not requiring to use Sunrun. So don't feel, if you're an F-150 Lightning owner, don't think you have to use Sunrun. Now, I will say when Sunrun calls you, when you get your Lightning, you're going to get a phone call from Sunrun, and they're going to almost, the way they worded it to me, I wasn't thrilled. And I talked about this on the podcast a few months ago. They almost made it sound like, okay, now, we'll be coming to your house now to install your Charge Station Pro. We're going to give you an estimate on solar, which they do. They want you to bundle solar, everything all at once. Understand, you don't have to go with them. You can certainly choose to go with them if you want to. Nothing wrong with Sunrun. I'm not talking bad about them, but I didn't like how they called me as if to say, okay, we're going to get your charger set up. We're going to get solar at your house. We're going to do all this. They never really asked me, do you want us to come and do this? It was just kind of like, we need to schedule for installation of your charger. And I was like, yeah, I got that covered already, But any event, I digress. This is where we're at now. As of yesterday, we're going to finish it up today, and we're going to power up Intelligent Backup Power System. I hope it works. I have heard from other people. Very few of these have been installed in the country. I think less than 20 are actually out there. But I've heard from numerous people that when they first powered it up, it didn't work. And they needed to get in touch with Ford. And the problem that I would have, that's the new riser on the front of my house, which my wife is not happy with.
Riser, that's
wow.
that big cable from the...
That's 400 amps.
You see the old wire on the side of the house. You don't even see it, But that right. look at the size of those wires. And they had to locate it on the front. I tried to put it on the side, but the utility... because of, there's code on where the new panel can be and where the wires can be with regards to your gutter and so forth and so on. Anyway, let's not talk about that. That's a sore subject over here these days.
I'm picturing something like out of National Lampoon's Christmas, where you plug something in at your house and then the whole neighborhood goes down. Like the Griswold's light comes on, Tom starts charging, and the whole street goes down. That's amazing.
So they are putting in a new transformer in front of my house. The utility is. Right. Because that, I need the 400 amp service, and the existing transformer can't handle it. So, you can move on from that picture, Martin. I'm not happy about that, but I knew it was going to be that way anyway. So we're installing it all today. We're just about done. The guys are in the garage now. That's why I'm not in the garage. I usually do the podcast down there because they're pulling wires and everything. We're installing Charge Station Pro today. We're going to power up intelligent backup power that you see there. Hopefully it all works. The problem that I could have is the fact that since I'm not using Ford's install the preferred installer, the installers don't have a hotline to troubleshoot. But I've talked to Ford about this a lot, and they have. I talked to Darren Palmer about it even recently, and he said they were thinking about making you use Sunrun, saying you had to use Sunrun if you wanted to install this, but the decision was, look, we have to let customers have a choice, and we'll support the customer if they choose somebody else. So if it doesn't work, we're going to see if Ford supports. Now, I'm a little bit of a special case. I know I would get special treatment. I'll put that right out there. If I call Ford, they're going to probably get on it quicker than if somebody else did. But if it doesn't work, when I power it up, if there's error codes like I've heard other people experience, then I'm going to record those. Besides me recording it, I actually have a film crew here all week. So I wanted to get higher level video than what I produce, and we're going to use it for Cumera as well as me. And so I'm going to be able to put out some really good videos. Give me a week or so on the whole process, step by step.
Okay.
And all that good stuff. So that's what's going on at the Mahogany home these days.
Right on.
That's insane. Who else is doing something like this? There can't be anyone.
And here's the crazy thing. Now you're going to really think I'm nuts. Within a year,
we already think that.
Within a year, I'm probably going to rip that stuff out and upgrade.
What?
Yeah, I already have something else planned coming in 2023. So
okay.
we're gonna do like a smart load shedding, smart panel and some battery storage, and keep an eye out for that. I don't think I'm going to make it through 2023 without doing some major changes over here.
So I'm thinking about doing a smart panel at the new hub that we're building. And, they have these things, and then you can actually put on more than your maximum capability, because we have a 400 amp maximum service where we're going in, which we met with the electrician yesterday. We maxed out and we didn't even make it halfway around the room. And we're like, oh, we need more power than this. So
it's not unusual for businesses, industrial businesses, to have 400 amp service, but it's not normal unless you have a very big house. There's where I live here in New Jersey, there's some big houses. There's some 10 to 15,000 square foot houses with 6 air conditioning systems and everything, so it's their houses out here that have 400 amp service. I don't have that big of a house. So, for me, 200 amps should have been just fine. But since I'm doing what I'm doing in the garage, and I don't want to be limited like Kyle is talking about, I wanted to have that. But that said, like Kyle said, you can get load shedding, smart panels. And quite honestly, Kyle, I would have done that right now. But there are some coming out that aren't available yet that I'm waiting for. And we'll talk offline, but I would urge you to not jump into and just buy what's available right now, because we're close to having a bunch of better products out there. Quite a lot, Marty. I have my my utility, my local utility engineer's number on my cell phone. So we talk.
I believe Marty works for a utility as well out in the Midwest.
Yeah. And if you're watching the video version of the podcast, now we're looking at Kyle and Outer Specs' potential future home. It's a great video that you posted on your own channel, I think, your own blog or vlog, to ask for some feedback on what your viewers think of this place. And it looks pretty cool. I got to be honest, that looks very cool.
Yep, it'll be a long, 10, 12 weeks till we get it, sort of ready to move in.
So I got to see the space actually. I don't know if you want to. Can we talk about this a little bit since Martin's got this all queued up?
Yeah, I mean it's all done. We're in. So yeah.
So this is will be the new practical palatial halls of Outer Space Studios, basically. And so you put out a video showing viewers, I guess, what you want to do with it. And did you mention the door, the glass door?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't watch the whole thing because it was kind of late last night.
Yep, glass doors in there. It's gonna be a sick glass door.
Yeah, this is a pretty nice place and a the good part of town with like lots of nice supporting businesses in the neighborhood, barbecue restaurant,
All we need.
a tire
Everything
place.
else can leave. We just need the barbecue restaurant.
There's a tire place right there, which is like awesome. Like
Yeah,
you could-
walking distance to just tire installs. So that'll
rolling,
be great.
you can
for
roll
testing and-
tires there, basically,
Yeah.
couldn't you?
Oh,
That's awesome. So I guess you're asking for suggestions in your video. So if people want to check it out, it's on your Kyle Connor channel.
Yeah, looking for electrical panel suggestions from Tom. Looking for lighting suggestions, sound system suggestions. We have a guy who watched the video. We totally forgot about internet. And this dude runs this really high-end networking company in Denver. He's like, "Oh, we'll come up and hook you up." I'm like, "Okay, great. Well, it's a good thing we're having our viewers involved, because I've never built a space before." And so, all the things that we didn't think about that we need to think about are really good. But we're not rushing this process. We're going to take as much time as we need to get it right. And that's all part of the fun going on here in Colorado.
And did you tell your viewers how many car lifts you want to have? How you want to
I don't know if we went into detail on the exact lifts and everything, but yes, we are going to have some really cool storage situations to build up, some indoor car storage.
Right. This place is going to be awesome. I will look forward to the updates as we go along with the project. Okay.
Tom, one last thing I want to point out. One of the comments said it's unfortunate that Tom needs to still rely on fossil fuels. It's talking about my natural gas generator.
Right.
The goal is to remove that, but I have it in place. It's not that old. It works perfectly, and we get frequent power outages here in New Jersey. And I'm going to tell you a hilarious story. When the first day we cut into this new 400 amp service, I had no power for like 6 hours when we cut out. And then, the guys were working furiously to at least just get basic power to the house so I could turn it on and at night not freeze because, it's cold. I need the heat running and everything. And so the whole staff leaves. The electricians leave at like 6 o'clock at night. We got everything running. 7 o'clock at night, I'm on the computer. Boom. Everything goes dark. So I'm like, oh, no. So I look out my window, and I would always tell, because the house across the street from me, they didn't have a natural gas generator. They didn't have a generator. So whenever we have power outages, and I get them a lot here, that's why I have the generator at least a few times a year. I've been out of power for 13 days, for 12 days, for 6 days. So we get power outages here. It's in a real rural area. There's a lot of trees. So I look out the window, and the lights are on the house across the street. So I said, oh, it's me. Like, these guys made a mistake. So my gas generator fires up in a few seconds. And I call them up, and I walk outside. The electrician, they didn't answer because driving home. I look outside, and I see the new service panel that they put on. The new meter is dark. So now I know that there's no power coming to the house if the meter's dark. So then I walked across the street, and I could hear that house must have just put in a generator, because that was how I always told if it was me or I'd look out the window at night, and if their lights were on, I knew it was something wrong with my house. So anyway, talk about a coincidence. They leave, I haven't had a power outage in like 4 months, and we cut out the power, we cut it back on, and an hour later we get a power outage. So of course you're thinking, like, I'm running down into the basement. I'm expecting to see like smoke and everything coming out of the new service panel, this new 400 amp. You see the wire they pulled for the 400 amp service. It's like, as fat as my wrist. Anyway, that's my story. But I do plan on eventually getting rid of the natural gas generator and going with storage here. But the fact is, we have extended power outages here, and I do have a 9 kilowatt solar array. But even with that running, if we're out for say 2 weeks, I'm not going to be able to sustain the heat. We have well water here, so I don't have water if we don't. So I need a 240 volt line for my well pump, for my heater, if I need to charge my car. So I need a lot of stationary energy storage. If I'm going to do this, I want like, 30 or 40 kilowatt hours of battery here. Really, to make me be as seamless as a 16 kW natural gas generator. I mean, that thing's pumping 16 kW 24/7 when we have power outages. So anyway, that's where we're at.
That's going to be fun to look at. It sounds like a great project.
I think you just need a Tesla Mega Pack.
Yeah, I was thinking
sucker right in.
I was thinking like a Model 3, like a salvage Model 3, you know, just rip the pack out of that, and
Nope.
you got all kind of power
Mega
for energy
pack.
storage.
That's
Mega
what
pack.
you need. That's
Okay.
like the one they've got in Australia, the one that keeps
Yes.
on half a city of Australia and Tom's house, like the same
Right.
thing.
Just run the line.
Yeah,
Hey,
what
you
you
know
need.
me, I'll do it. I'm still waiting for a company that like makes those, like a competitor to Tesla, offer me one. I did have one company offered me their stationary energy, but it was like a 5 kilowatt hour system. Like that you know,
What can you do with that?
that really doesn't help, you know. But
Right.
you know, maybe I'll get somebody to sponsor me in the future and give me a huge pack, and I'll put it in, and you know, as long as it's a good product, I'll you know, I'll advertise for them.
I'll check mine. We've got 10 kWh, and you see, what am I at now? 4:00 in the afternoon, and we've got 12% left, and we've had a reasonably cold night, or whatever 3 or 4 degrees Celsius is in your language. But so the air conditioning's been on, the air-to-air heat pump's been on, and yeah, that's not going to get me through until, well, we get cheap rate electricity at 9:30 p.m. when it goes down to 5 pence, but that's not going to get me through. So I'm going to be paying some peak rate electricity for a couple of hours. So and that's just the, you know, 2 adults in the house. So yeah, go, if you can go big, you will not regret it, because you eat through storage really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I use 25, 30 kilowatt hours a day in the house, just running the house, you know, without charging the car or whatever. So, you know, when you think about, if my solar array now in the winter, some days it'll produce, you know, 2 kilowatt hour, you know, when
Yeah.
it's gray out, whatever. So it's not gonna keep me running. The summer peak days, it'll do like 50 or 60 kilowatt hour. That's perfect sun, you know, not too hot and everything. So I'll get rid of the natural gas generator when it will be able to function, and I don't have to worry about being out of power for weeks at a time. You know, but that's down the road a little bit.
Gary Clark has a good suggestion. Just put a propeller on the top of your house and get ready for the divorce papers.
Yeah, no, my wife's name's Meredith. She's awesome. I got to give her credit. She puts up with my you know, I'm relatively docile on this podcast. You know, people that know me know, Kyle might even knows a little bit about me. I'm a little bit more wild in person, and I got to give Meredith a lot of credit. She puts up with a lot, so thanks a lot.
I think we need to give all of our partners credit for all of the stuff they put up with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick, Tom, you weren't here last week because you were in Germany, I believe, driving
I
the
was flying
Sprinter.
home from Germany for the e-Sprinter. And here's the thing. It was a first look event. And everything we learned is embargoed until mid-February.
Oh.
That's the longest embargo I've ever seen. But
crazy.
what they did allow us to talk about was they did an efficiency run with the e-Sprinter. And they basically drove one from Stuttgart to Munich and back to Stuttgart. And if you look at that picture that Martin has up on there, you see that little blue tab on the front? That's the charge port. That's because this was an official test. It wasn't just Mercedes doing it. They actually had TUV SUD involved. They're like the product testing and compliance organization. So they had a representative in the vehicle to make sure Mercedes didn't cheat. You know, they put a lock on the charge port. They set the tires to the exact pressure that they're supposed to be set at, and then they hopped in it and drove, you know, to Munich and back in the van, and it went 295 miles, and it finished up with a 3% battery and an estimated remaining range of 12 miles. So we're not allowed to release any battery pack information, but you know, if you're smart enough to realize they did announce the consumption rate, which was 21.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That translates to 2.84 miles per kilowatt hour. So you could do the math that it drove 295 miles and had 12 miles remaining. And that would come out somewhere around 110 kilowatt hour for the battery pack. And that's important because Mercedes makes an e-Sprinter now. And but it has 2 battery pack sizes. I think the small size, I think it's 38 kilowatt hour and 52 or something, or 56. So
it's undersized for the vehicle.
So it's basically what this test proved was that the new eSprinter, at least in the largest battery pack, which I believe this had, because they're going to have different sizes, it has to be about twice as big as the existing Sprinter. And it should be able to get close to 300 miles of range. Now, that's not fully loaded, but weight doesn't have as much effect as Aero does. And they did drive this on the major highways, going back and forth. So this is a legit van for work. I mean, it's, I would imagine you could load this thing up, and no, they're not 4-wheel drive. They're not. It's not going to be 4-wheel drive. Anyway, you could load this thing up and go, as at least early versions, as far as you want, and 250 miles probably, even at highway speeds. So this van will work. They didn't bring the original Sprinter EV to the U.S. because the range was so poor. They had it on like small. It was almost like pilot programs in urban city centers. And there's plenty of work duty cycles that a 75-mile van works fine for. Not a lot of them, but they're out there, and that's what they used them in. I think it was almost like a testing ground, and this is their legit eSprinter.
Right on. Well, look forward to hear more about that in February. It's quite a little bit of a wait, but so Kyle, I want to talk about what you've been doing this week. Besides your new space, you have a interesting little video there, the supercharger experience on EVgo, setting up my Tesla with AutoCharge Plus. So we had the gentleman from EVgo on here just a few weeks ago, right? A couple weeks ago, talking about how Teslas can charge on the EVgo system and stuff.
Jonathan Levy.
Sorry, right, Jonathan Levy.
Yeah.
So how did it go?
Well, it was really a follow-up to that podcast, more or less. I said I would try and get set up with everything. So I did, and it was super easy. And they, the whole premise here is AutoCharge Plus EVgo's situation uses the MAC address of the car rather than, different communications that's in the ISO 15118 standard. So it still uses parts of ISO 15118 in its charging process. It's just payment processing itself is done in a different node, if you will. So basically, it was super simple. I had my Tesla with me with my official Tesla CCS adapter, the US version. I have both the Korean and the US version. There's no difference, in case anyone's wondering. Same part number, no difference there at all.
Okay.
And I, basically went through the app, added the car's VIN number, plugged it in. It did like a one-time handshake where it learned the car learned the network. And then now I've just been able to go to EVgo stations and just plug the dang thing in and walk away. It's really pretty amazing. Now, not every car supports this, but yeah, things like older Chevy Bolts, like News Coolum here in the comments, a great YouTube channel if you don't subscribe, has this working. Other cars have it working, but my Rivian doesn't. Neither does the e-tron. So I think the only car that works that I have are the Teslas that work with this AutoCharge Plus. But great system, really nice. 540 amps saw charging on their Delta unit. What's interesting is I was at a EVgo Signet unit yesterday with my Rivian, only getting 440 amps. So another 100 amps on the Delta versus the Signet, even though the truck was requesting all the power. So that was pretty interesting. Yeah, well, it's all heating up. It's getting exciting. EVgo is doing a pretty good job speccing hardware. I think their Delta stuff's really nice. And they're doing a pretty okay job at site design. At least here in Denver, they're really putting stations in everywhere. I mean, almost every corner seems to have a new EVgo station. The next iteration is the corridor charging, which we know they're going into with this pilot network and other things. But I just think that that's the key, and that's needed. We need a competition to electrify America for long distance travel. And to be totally transparent, EA, I just keep getting messages after messages after messages tagged in tweets from stations being down across the country, many of them including their brand new hardware. And it's just time that we stop. We need to stop relying on them for long distance travel. We need a competitor in the CCS space. Right.
Because that'll make them improve too.
I was going to say competition's always good in every industry, and they haven't had, they're Sorry, Dom, I cut you off. They're the 800-pound gorilla in the room, Electrify America. And we all want them to succeed. Nobody's saying let's bring out a competitor to crush Electrify America. We all want Electrify America, but competition does make people better. And there's one thing I wanted to point out. Kyle mentioned that he uses the Korean and Tesla CCS adapter. Now there's another one. Lectron put this out. That's right. It's like exactly the same as the Tesla one, and works perfectly. I've used it already. Same specs, 300 amps. Same. It'll put the same output out, and it's less expensive. They had this on sale for Black Friday for like $169 for just for the day, but now it's at $199. So it's $50 less than a Tesla's adapter. It seems like it's the same build quality and everything. I've used it. It works. So that we have more competition now.
Yeah, and what is it? $50. Wouldn't you just get the OE one?
Well, so if you can, Tesla constantly runs out of them. They're back ordered. So if you want one, and you know what, Kyle, I'm imagine they just reverse engineered it. They just took the thing apart. Like if it's as good, or maybe they're the same supplier that's making them for Tesla that Lectron hired and is making them and just making it for them. It seems like it's built the same way. I mean, I put them next to each other. It's like nearly an identical product. So
I think you should cut it open. Let's see what.
Yeah, that would be a good thing to cut them open. But we should let Sandy do that. But anyway, it's less. If you can't get one from Tesla, you can get this online now, and it costs less. So
I should just mention too that that item is on Tom's 2022 holiday gift ideas for the EV enthusiast post on Inside EVs.
That's a good post idea.
Yeah, so if you wanted to look at, if you have an EV enthusiast in your life, or you want to send your better half or whatever, some hints,
great thumbnail.
Some hints, you can just like leave this page open on your computer or laptop or whatever.
And there's Meredith in the car.
Brilliant.
Is it?
Yeah, that's my Model 3 up in Vermont.
Okay. Well, Mr. Beast can spend 6 figures on a thumbnail, and it won't be better than this.
That's right.
This is brilliant. I have to ask, by the way, Kyle. I have to ask, what is the deal with how quickly that connected on Auto Charge Plus? Is that a Tesla thing, or is because it was properly fast, right?
It sounds like that's just how it works for all the cars. All the activation is just boom. Now, the actual getting the charger spun up and connected still takes some time. And I don't know if I was watching a News Coolum video or I was seeing him comment somewhere, but he was mentioning he's done some testing to see how quickly from plug-in to actual power being flown. And it seems like the 350 or the Delta ones take a little while to spin up and go. So it's still like a 45-second delay till you start juicing. But honestly, way faster communication than CCS. And it just all seems to just work. The thing that I like, at least in the background, is it seems to be doing payment process and car connection at the same time. So a lot of times when you do an EA plug-in charge activation, you plug in the car, it says, let me go through the whole payment process. As soon as I know that I can bill you, now I'll start connecting it to the car. This seems to all happen simultaneously, which really speeds up the time.
So we have one like that over here. They're a network called PodPoint, and the minute you plug in, it starts. And then you get up to 15 minutes to then authenticate payment or go into the app and say, so you plug in, it just goes. Because I think
they're full speed, or does it go small?
Yeah, full speed, because their theory is, well, you know what? It's just most people, you've got to be a certain type of person to go to one of their chargers, plug in for 15 minutes, let it time out, then unplug, plug it in again. I mean, you could do if you really want free juice.
That would happen in America.
Maybe
the real sweet spot, I think, actually, is plug in and give the car anywhere from 1 to 6 kilowatts instantly. And you
just go, just start.
Yeah, 10 minutes or whatever to activate and go. That crazy charging station we filmed in Germany, Zusmarshausen, does that. You plug in, you get 3 kilowatts, no matter what. And there's actually no time limit because they have 70 DC fast chargers. If you want to use it as a level 2, 3 kilowatt station, you can, more or less, even though it's not technically level 2, but low power DC charging. And then you just go and activate it and you choose what power level you want. And then you pay more for higher power level. You can only do that when you have excess charging capability. Otherwise, you want to incentivize, quick throughput.
Yep.
Right. Let's see, we're almost out of time, but Kyle, you also had some other videos I wanted to mention this week. Fixing the biggest problem with my Model S Plaid: MPP brakes, Mountain Pass Performance big brakes, and Martian wheels transform the car. And I got to ride in your car because I brought back your Model 3 performance this past weekend with and my apologies again, I managed to damage it.
It's just the thing when you borrow a Tesla of mine. I wasn't going to bring it up on the podcast, but
I need to come clean. I need to be transparent because I curbed Kyle's car in the worst way freaking possible.
Not a curb. There's some serious damage under there. We looked under there.
Oh no!
Oh yeah.
Oh no!
It's not a curbs when you hit a wheel. The wheels are fine.
Right. I mean, I got a picture of the side
panel
here if we can show up. This is what I can see if I can get
Where are we?
Show. It's like a nasty scrape.
Oh, that's bent metal, Dom. That's whoa. Okay. Well, it's
good.
It's fixable, but it's not good.
But that's the only time that anything happened with it, like hitting anything or whatever.
Good.
I mean, it was a curve.
You hit an owl.
Oh, I hit an owl. That's true. Like 76 miles an hour, I believe it was. My God.
I get a call. He's like, Kyle, I just hit an owl. I don't know if the car's okay. And then he arrives, and the car's got this. And I'm like, is this the owl? He's like, no,
it's so crazy owl. Oh, my goodness.
Right. Yeah. I was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
60 miles an hour. All of a sudden, there's just something boom, and like the car shakes. There's like buzzers sounding. The animation on the steering wheel is like bright red and flashing. I thought the car was shutting down, but it didn't. It just shut off autopilot and all that stuff. But yeah, it was kind of scary. And there was like goo all over the car. I had to wash off.
For anyone watching, I'm laughing because of the human situation of Dom borrowing Kyle's car and knowing everything about my friends that I do. Not about killing animals, by the way, but what I just want to clear that up. But what is so funny is the various personalities involved and spectacular story.
Yeah, because when Dom got here, he's like, "Oh, we're not going to be happy." I'm like, "Literally, there's nothing you can do to this car that I would care about." Yeah. And then he's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Wow, like that takes real skill to get an impact in that one place."
So if you notice on just behind the scratch, there's like a disconnect between the piece of trim or something. I think that was already like that. So I'm not sure what you saw on the bottom, but yeah.
Don't worry about it.
I'm not too. I did offer to pay for it too.
Don't worry about it. Which, it's a car. Things will happen. It's the cost of doing business. It'll make a good video.
I've got there's no alcohol involved in this. Actually, I was at a store buying some beer. That's
amazing. The story gets better. You were off buying booze.
This is like World of Beers kind of store. And I think, oh, maybe I can find this Canadian beer in there. So when I backed in, and there was like a long curb alongside the whole side, and I pulled out what I thought was far enough, but then I cut it too hard, and it
you did it kept going? Is that what happened? You just
I love it.
Felt resistance and then floored it?
It's fine. It's fine. No, I'm at World of Beer. This always happens at World of Beer. Just floor it.
That's what I would have done if I was
absolutely.
I'm wide open. So
Right. No, I know Kyle's because getting back to Kyle's Model S Plaid. I got to ride with Kyle and his Model S Plaid, and we tested those brakes at a high rate of speed, and they work really good, which is good.
Brakes work great. Yes.
I thought we were going to die.
Oh my God! You thought we were gonna. Dominic's in his like what is it? Your bio on your old Twitter accounts, like love performance, hate fossil fuel. So I'm like, oh, okay, so this dude probably likes to rip. And so yeah, we went shredding a little bit, and then I saw him like grabbing all edges of the car, trying to keep himself in the seat. So
it's different, like being in the passenger seat when you were doing more than 3 digits, and then. And being on in the driver's seat with the wheel in your hands and full control and knowing what the car can do and how quick it can stop. I think we lost Tom. He had some still work going on in his house, so he has to deal with that. So thanks for being here with us, Tom. I appreciate it. And this is you on the track testing out the new brakes that we're watching this video on the screen with that. You have a steering wheel coming?
Yep, round steering wheel coming.
Sweet.
Yeah, but the
Is
brakes
that-
are cool. We did front and rear, big brake kit from Mountain Pass, brake fluid, brake brace, and brake lines are to come. So those last two items are to come. Fluid and pads, rotors are in. We retained the stock caliper, but spaced it out to give it a little bit more. And honestly, it's what's needed. The Model S is, really, really bad brakes from the factory, and now they're, I would say, acceptable.
Right. Yeah, you definitely need to change up that fluid if you're going to spend any time on the track.
Yeah, or even just like driving through my canyon roads here. Like when I go on my
you
morning
driving through those
class-
canyon roads, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty hard on brakes. I heat up fluid pretty quick, so I always run.
Yeah.
In most of my cars, I run high temp fluid anyway, just because I, you paid for all the tire in the car. You should use all the tire in the car. I don't know.
Sure, and brake fluid. Really, I don't know why it's like not. I don't know if there's a price differential or something with a higher performance fluid or
massive.
Okay.
It's like
guess that's why.
$150 a bottle or something like that.
Okay.
Versus like $8.
Okay. Okay, that explains all that.
Yep. But yeah, Model S is rocking, doing great. We what else did we do this week? We're in the process of blacking out our e-tron. That's coming along nicely. Put studded tires on all the cars. So we're rocking Nokians this year. And you know what's crazy is, everyone says, oh, we don't get enough ice in the front range. I beg to differ. At least here on my street, there were cars that were just stuck even on winter tires. On ice, we had studs driving like we're on pavement. So big fan. Not every car will have studs, but every car will have winter tires. So pretty pleased with a lot of that. The Nokian stuff going on around here.
Tom just messaged us in the private chat to say they shut his power down mid-podcast. And that is... Nice. He looked out the window and his house is off because they're doing that. So he didn't say goodbye because of this. Okay. He didn't know they were coming. He says so. There you go. That's. He's not being rude. That's why he went.
No snow there yet.
Some hardcore. Oh, I bet there has been.
Man. Yeah. So speaking of snow, real quick, you also have a video, Kyle, a snow day with a VW ID4 all-wheel drive. I didn't actually get a chance to watch that. I believe that's Alyssa's sister's vehicle.
Yep.
And is it you driving?
Yep. Yeah, I took it out. I wanted to see, ID4 is sort of getting the second wave of excitement with these Chattanooga built vehicles, full tax credit by end of year. Michaela got hers, Colton's buying his, and Colton's like, Kyle, what's this thing like in the snow? I'm like, well, you're a buyer of the car. I don't know. I should make a video. Right. And there's a lot of people in cold weather states buying this ID4. And so I took a totally stock one with 400 miles on it, no modifications, and just pounded it through the snow, and it was very impressive. So big fan of that car in cold weather. Still some software bugs, even with the newest updates and everything. Volkswagen is just, I think they're at risk of losing everyone just over software. The car is great. It just needs to all integrate and work very well together, and it's not, unfortunately. Right. But the only last thing I think we should really talk about is the Rivian Amazon van that we got to play around with.
Oh, that's true. Right.
Yeah,
you had a great video with Max, I believe, going down to the...
Max went to go check it out. I was going to go, got really busy. I was like, Max, you got to go do this thing. And so he blasted over there, and I thought produced a awesome tour of the Rivian Amazon van, going into how they charge them, the use case of them, how the driver training works, how the insides are laid out, all with like their chief Rivian Amazon van a driver trainer, more or less. This is the dude that trains everyone to drive these things. So I thought it was a super interesting video, and really it was neat. Now I think we're going to have the opportunity to drive one in something like 4 or 8 weeks. So stay tuned for that.
Wow. I mean, I really love this. I drove a vehicle similar to this, and I'd love to get behind the wheel and just see how it compares. Right, not just behind the wheel, but actually in back. It'd be kind of fun to do spend half a day like doing runs with a driver. That'd be kind of cool too, because you really get to see how it all works together in action.
Right. It's super cool. Front wheel drive. Interestingly, they use 2 of the Rivian R1T front motors. So they're the Bosch motors, same 135 kilowatt hour pack that's in my R1T and everyone else's. And, what's crazy is they really charge them up quite high. Oh, we got to go to Tom. He's at the electrical room.
Yeah, before we end. Yeah.
Hey guys. So I see you got that picture that I took. The utility just pulled up and just pulled the plug and is swapping out the transformer in front of the house. So I came down the basement. My generator's on now. You can probably hear it. It's right through the window behind me here. Let me see. I can't get the angle. There it is. So, and here's the service panel here. If we go over here, we have, these are the two. This is my generator panel. I don't want to stick my hand in there. That's one 200 amp panel. This is another 200 amp panel. This is the transfer switch for Ford's intelligent backup power. This is my sub panel up here for that. This is the battery. This is the inverter for the intelligent backup power, and then that's the inverter for my solar array. So yeah, we're running on generator right now because the utility pulled the plug on me. I'm going to go upstairs to the garage. I think my electricians are probably working in the garage now doing Ford Charge Station Pro. So let's see. Here we are. Yep. So behind me, you can see some of the guys back here. And there's Charge Station Pro on the wall. It isn't fully installed yet, but we'll take a look inside.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Wow.
So yeah,
ready to go.
yeah. It's we got to have a disconnect for it, which is set over there. And here's where the power feeds come in on this side, and then behind, there's a lot of wires that got to come into this. And to be honest with you, it's not the best design for that. Like we had to drill extra holes and everything. It's
Okay.
the station isn't set up to have enough openings for the amount of wires that you need to get into Charge Station Pro if you're going to use intelligent backup power. So I just looking at it, it's not the best design for a charging station that's going to do what this is going to do, in my opinion. But
Right.
I'm also going to have a full review on that coming up soon. So
Tom,
Anyway.
is that disconnect in case so that prevents load going back into the grid? Is that what that does for safety?
no, the charging stations that in the NEC code here is anything more than a 48 amp EVSE has to have a disconnect.
Okay.
And this is 80 amps, so you have to have a disconnect right next to it. So
Right,
I think
gotcha.
you can go up to 48 amps, and but anything more than that, you have to have the disconnect, within 8 feet or something like that. And
Wow.
that's why we got to have it on this one.
And that's just to cut off power in case of some issue or some
Yeah.
sort, right?
That's
Okay.
sensible.
Yeah, I mean down here, you might be able to see.
Wow, look at that schematic.
Yeah,
Jeez.
this
Is that-
that's what my house has. Hell yeah.
Oh my God.
Wow,
So
that's
this
amazing.
wasn't a matter of just having a couple electricians come out and do some wiring. Like they
No.
they had to have an engineer come out and really make sure we have, because I have so many moving parts here. It's not just intelligent backup power. It's the solar. It's the natural gas generator, and everything has to work with each other. So
Wow.
but that it's good because I mean, even everyone I talk to at Q-Merit and the local electrical contractor that's part of the Q-Merit network that's here working on it, we're excited about this because they all said, look, this is what the future is. This is what we're going to be seeing in house after house. People are going to be putting in high-powered electric car charging equipment. They're going to be putting in solar. They're going to be putting in vehicle-to-grid technology. They're going to be putting in backup energy, stationary energy storage. So this is kind of like prelude to what they're going to be expecting. So, and that's another reason why we're filming and recording everything, because we'll probably use some of what we did here today for future training.
Right on. That's a big, ambitious project, Tom. Hats off to you. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's been, I'm psyched that if, we're going to be powering everything up in a couple of hours, once they're done with the transformer, and I think Charge Station Pro is done now. They just have to put the covers back on it. We're going to see if everything works. So hopefully, I'll be charging the Lightning at 80 amps tonight, and we'll kill the power and simulate a power outage to see if intelligent backup power works.
All right.
This is
Well-
crazy. This is really crazy. I can't
Yeah.
wait to come and see all this and play around with it. So what I think I need to do is I'm going to be over there in a few weeks, Tom, and we want to start pulling stuff and see how quickly the backup power goes in.
Yes.
Versus your
Yeah.
generator.
Yeah.
Like
100%. There's my
Yeah.
Lightning behind us. And here's a new toy I just got here.
Another
I just
toy.
bought this electric snowblower.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's the first year that I don't have a plow, and I have a big driveway. I mean, look behind me. I'm going to try to do this with the with that
Wow.
electric snowblower.
That's a big task.
It's like
Wow.
280 feet long, and I know it won't be able to handle it with just one battery charge, but we'll see. We'll see how it works. So it should be fun this year. If anybody
again-
local wants to come over here when it snows and give me a hand, I'll give you my address.
I wouldn't mind doing some electric snowballing. That sounds like fun at one time.
Yeah, it'll be fun for the first hour, but like you
Right.
see, I'm really curious to see how long the batteries last on that. And how many times I have to stop and recharge it in order to finish. So should be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well,
All
tune
right,
in
guys,
next
I'm going to
week.
cut out.
Yeah.
Okay. Take
We'll
care.
see you.
Peace.
And I guess we should probably say goodbye to everyone. Tune in next week for the exciting conclusion of Tom's home adventure there. And but that brings us to the end of our show. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them on the Inside EV's forum podcast thread or on our YouTube or Twitch comment sections. If you like this show, please give us a thumbs up if you're watching us on YouTube. Don't forget you can find and follow our panelists on Twitter. Follow Tom Logney at Tomolog, that's with 2 M's. Martin Lee is at EV News Daily. Kyle Connor is at It's Kyle Connor. And I'm at Dominic on post.news. Click subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications.
Hold on. What did
And
you just say?
Hang on a minute.
I said I'm at Dominic, my name, on post.news. It's another platform, like a Twitter
Okay.
platform. It's coming up. It's interesting.
Okay.
Whatever. It's
All
not
right.
a
Well,
big deal yet.
Okay.
But that's where I am. Click subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications. Thanks for watching and viewing. We really appreciate our audience. You've been great, and thank you for all your questions and comments today. We'll see you all again next week. Ciao.